Hi, I'm Rob with Salsify, and we're back at the whiteboard. Today, we're going to talk about the next decade of PXM. Now, the first decade of PXM was super fun times. I don't know if anybody else misses the low interest rate environment, but everybody out there was trying to grow e-commerce effectively at all costs. Tens of billions of dollars were spent testing and learning what model was going to work in the future. You can remember all of the delivery startups and all of the money that went into them, the giant acquisitions like Jet.com and all of the D2C aggregators, the Thrazios of the world. I mean, just an absolute ton of money. Even within companies, they were spinning up centers of excellence. They were buying technologies. There was just tons of experimentation. Retail media went from zero to tens of billions of dollars of spend seemingly overnight. So in the low interest rate environment, there was an absolute tremendous amount of just spend money to grow at all costs. And in that world, PXM, the role that it played was for the top channels that had the most growth, like an Amazon as the canonical example. It helped you optimize all of the product detail pages on Amazon, optimize for search results, things like that. And usually most companies that were using PXM or we're optimizing on Amazon or we're looking across digital shelves in general, or we're experimenting with some of the delivery startups, they would care mostly about their top products, which makes sense. For a lot of companies, that your top products are going to make 80-90% of your GMV. And there's a long tail of products that have decreasing revenue the further you go out on that tail. So there was just a lot of juice to squeeze for the key channels and the top products. And companies spent a lot of money testing and learning there. Now, this next decade, we're no longer in a low interest rate environment. Sadly, money is expensive. The last 2 years you've seen in the tech world where we live, you've seen tons of layoffs. But even in the manufacturing world, people have been really ruthless about cutting costs and making sure that every single dollar matters. You went from folks talking about top line growth in e-commerce to folks talking about margin growth from digital channels. And you saw shifts in language like that. And I think that's going to continue for a long time. The interest rates that we have now are kind of historical norms, maybe a little bit higher, but going back to the zero interest rate environment is not something that's going to happen again pretty soon. So for PXM, growth still matters for all companies, but the growth that people are going to invest in is growth that is profitable. So there's a lot more focus on margin. There's a lot more focus on getting more juice from the squeeze. And there's going to be increased and continued focus on efficiency for the spend that you've got on technologies, the spend that you've got on your retail media, all those big line items. You want to make sure that every marginal dollar is going as far as it can. Andrea Lee's wonderful Alum Group did a survey at the beginning of 2023 where 50% of e-commerce execs say profitability with retailers is their number one concern. Now, remember, this is 18 months ago at the time of this recording. I bet if you did that survey again today, this would be closer to 100%. There's just been that much pressure on cost. And so anyone who's looking around at technology purchases, anyone who's looking around at digital shelf operations knows that focusing on cost while maintaining growth is the balancing act that we've all got to play right now. More growth with less cost across all touch points. PXM is going to support with three major themes. The first is by helping to increase sales growth. This is just bread and butter, but the way that it's going to do so is focusing more on conversion rates rather than simply dumping money for traffic. The second is increased operational efficiencies. Every single dollar in terms of human resources and technology that you're putting into your organization for omni-channel operations, you want it to go as far as possible. A lot of companies in the zero interest rate environment kind of bought every tool imaginable, built big teams. We're going to have to make sure that the dollars are going further internally. And the third is related to that, but is a topic of itself, is tech stack consolidation. With AI in particular, companies are going to want to spend a lot of money and resources testing and learning on AI. But if your core tech stack around omnichannel operations is complicated and there's too many pieces, you're just not going to have the mental bandwidth or the energy or the finances to spend on AI the way that you need to. So leaning on PXM as a core pillar to reduce the tech stack complexity internally is going to give you room to operate along these other themes. The first theme there in terms of growing top line sales and the second theme in terms of operational efficiency, we think come together in what we call powering the product enterprise. When a team is working together, they're more efficient, and they can go far. There's that old proverb: if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And if you look at the way that e-commerce operated in the 2010s, everyone was just testing and learning and going as fast as possible. The e-commerce teams were kind of on the side of the business, and they had a lot of room to operate on their own, and were kind of, in a lot of cases, just isolated from the core company. The more that e-commerce, omni-channel operations, including things like buy online, pick up in store and whatnot, come together, the more that every team across the company needs to get involved in this in order to drive efficiencies and make sure that the goals are reached. So for us, we think that PXM has a role to play, not just in the digital shelf teams, but in supporting retail media, which, according to a Digital Shelf Institute study, is owned by often 3-4 different departments at the same time right now within companies. It's crazy. So consolidating how organizations optimize for their retail media conversion rates on product detail pages, there's a lot of efficiencies there by connecting teams. Another one is services and support. Folks that use, for example, Service Cloud. Oftentimes companies are getting product questions that come in to your services team, and those teams are going to public websites to try to search what the answers will be about product questions. PXM can provide frontline support for product Q&A to those staffs. Branding teams have often, again, they've been on the side. The way that a lot of CPG companies in particular think about branding, you've got traditionally the television advertising and whatnot, totally separate from the trade side of the equation. And in the world of omnichannel, branding and trade are a lot more interlinked than they used to be. And the assets and the campaigns that the two use have got to be synchronized more than they have been in the past. So bringing them into the fold is important. Also, legal teams, in particular in Europe, but increasingly in the US as well, you're seeing a complicated regulatory environment where product information is playing a huge role. You want the legal teams to be involved in the product information that goes out there in front of consumers across touch points. Second major theme here is the PXM will support the whole PDP. Traditionally, at the beginning, a lot of this was limited by the capabilities of the retailers themselves and their automation, where they would allow brands some amount of control, for example, on the product title, the hero image, things like that. There's limited parts of the page. You have the features and benefits bullets, which are kind of hidden right here, that you can control. So, PXM naturally would focus on the areas that you can control. But there's other things like reviews here, which even if you can't exactly control them directly, the information in reviews is absolutely critical to conversion rate optimization. We've run studies where folks that take from 5-star reviews, like this one down here, if you take exact text out of the 5-star review and put it into a feature bullet, we've seen increases in search traffic and we've seen increases in conversion rate. There's all kinds of sentiment that comes out of these things that you can imagine AI processing thousands of reviews and then suggesting how to improve your description, suggesting how to improve your feature bullets, suggesting words to add to your title, for example. So there's more parts of the product detail page where even if you can't control them, bringing them into PXM will give you new ways to optimize the page, and therefore your dollars will go farther. If the PDP is fully optimized, every dollar of retail media that you spend is going to go farther. The ROAS goes up. Every single visit to this page has a higher chance that somebody's going to purchase it. So you're increasing sales and you're driving ad spend efficiency by taking advantage of more page optimization. And finally, PXM will drive digital shelf automation with AI. If you look across all the PDPs, and in particular, if you tie those two themes that we were just talking about together, powering the product enterprise, where you've got lots of different departments in the software, lots of different types of workflows, and also PXM playing more of a role across more of the product detail page, across more channels. There's just simply too many knobs to turn across all of your company's assortment, across all these channels, to optimize them by humans. It can't be done. At the Digital Shelf Summit this year, WPP gave a keynote where they said for a single product that is a broadly distributed product, you can make something like 80,000 decisions in a single week about optimizing that product. A lot of that is ad bidding for retail media, but there's also a lot of other optimization decisions that you can make on top of that in terms of SEO, conversion rate optimization, and whatnot. Tens of thousands of decisions for a single SKU. Multiply that by your entire assortment, and I mean, it's there's a ton of opportunity in there, but there's no way that humans can handle all that. So AI can play a role in automating steps of the process of PDP optimization and digital touchpoint optimization on every step of the data creation and management lifecycle. And there's a lot of work that's already gone into this, and we're only just touching the tip of the iceberg as to what's possible here. So to finish up here, PXM in the next decade of the digital shelf is going to help drive sales growth with efficiency, help drive operational efficiency by connecting more teams that are participating in omnichannel commerce within the organization, and it's going to help drive tech consolidation within the space. We're going to talk more about that in upcoming episodes. So thank you so much, and I hope you found this useful.